Good evening, everyone. Would everyone please stand? We'll be led by Alderman Nash for prayer.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all of our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Alderman Burnham, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It sounds really nice and full. Gives you goosebumps.
Prior to beginning open citizen comment, I'm going to ask for a motion to suspend our rules to add an ordinance amending Section 7-1324 of Article 6 of the Code of Ordinances. Alderman Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Stacey Gould. All those in favor of suspension? Unanimous?
I did not. I did not
sorry?
vote in favor.
Oh, I apologize. Please, let's a little higher with the hand, please. Thank you. Okay, so the vote is 6-1. Okay. What's that? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll begin.
Question, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Where are we inserting this in the agenda?
This is number
At the
5.
very end.
Number
Okay.
5.
Thank you.
Yes, Alderman Filbert.
Under the suspension of the rules, I would like to move proclamations ahead of citizen comment, if possible.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous? You have that? You have that? Don't get it. Okay. For the record, we're beginning citizen comment a little bit late, so we'll start it now at 7:34. First person.
We suspended the rules.
We did.
So the proclamations are going ahead of...
Oh, you want a
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not hear you
That's
clearly.
okay, sorry.
Okay, all right. My apologies for all of you who signed up to speak. Mr. Whitty. Yep. There's Charlie.
Mr. Whitty, it's my pleasure to read this proclamation. Whereas Charles Whitty, a Norwich native, decided to serve the city of Norwich by becoming the city manager from January 8, 1973 to June 30th, 1986, and whereas Charles Whitty was appointed to the Norwich City Council to serve on the Norwich Golf Course Authority from 1991 to 2017, working to keep the golf course one of the gems of Norwich, and whereas Charles Whitty has served as the housing director of the Norwich Housing Authority from May 22, 2000 to his retirement on June 3, 2018. And whereas Charles Whitty is known for his fairness, thoughtfulness, and following his principles while performing his duties. He is fondly known for his quick wit and astuteness when the occasion warranted a lighter moment. His work and commitment to the city of Norwich has garnered admiration. He epitomizes the ideal public servant. And whereas Charles Whitty always went above and beyond, looking for the means to accomplish goals that will improve the lives of the citizens of Norwich, the Rose City is extremely thankful to him. Now, therefore, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom and Norwich City Council Pro Tem William Nash, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the city of Norwich, do hereby extend our most sincere gratitude to Charles Whitty for his many years of service and commitment to the Rose City, and congratulate him on his well-deserved retirement. Dated this 21st day of May, 2018. Congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, City Manager, Mr. Driscoll, Betsy, it's been my pleasure to have been a part of the city since 1970. The time has flown. More recent years flown a little bit quicker than before. But I do thank you for your support and your help over the years. And I very much look forward to being able to rest a little bit, but I certainly am not going to stay away from being a part of the city and a part of this community. It's the joy of my life. I thank you very much.
Whereas Hector R. Blytheron contributed to the Rose City when he ran for office on November 5, 1991, and served on the North City Council. And whereas Hector R. Blytheron was re-elected on November 2, 1993, and served on the North City Council as the President Pro Tem. Whereas Hector R. Blytheron served on the Ice Arena Authority and the Ice Arena Building Committee from December 12, 1992 to December 5, 1995. And whereas Hector R. Blytheron was appointed to the Board of Commissioners of the Norwich Housing Authority on March 22, 1996, he served in the capacity until April 12, 2018, a total of 22 years of honorable service to the city of Norwich. And whereas Hector R. Blytheron was elected to be the chairman of the Norwich Housing Authority on April 11, 2001, and served continuously as the chair until April 12, 2018. And whereas Hector R. Blytheron served on the Keegan Park Advisory Committee from December 6, 1991 to December 5, 1995, and the Public Parking Commission from January 3, 1994 to December 31, 1997. Therefore, Peter Albert Nystrom and North City Council President Pro Tem Bill Nash, on behalf of the North City Council and the citizens of the city of Norwich, do hereby extend our most sincere gratitude to Hector R. Blytheron for his many years of service and commitment to the Rose City, and congratulate him on a well-deserved retirement. Dated this day, 21st day of May, 2018.
Senator, Mr. Representative, if you'd like to join us, we can do this together. Dr. Hahn? It's a proclamation from the City of Norwich Whereas Cornelio Robin Hong, MD, after serving as rotating intern at USAF Clark Air Base, went on to finish his internship at the American Wallingford Hospital and served as a senior resident at Hartford Hospital. And whereas Cornelio Robin Hong, MD, completed a fellowship in nephrology at the University Hospital, served as a teaching fellow in internal medicine, and in 1977 he set up his private practice in primary care internal medicine in Norwich. And whereas Cornelio Robin Hong, MD, was commissioned U.S. Medical Corps Army Major in July 1989, and from July 1989 to 1992 was a Major MC of the Connecticut Army National Guard and 142nd Medical Company Clearing. And whereas Cornelio Robin Hong, MD, from November 1990 to April 1991 was the commander of the 142nd Medical Company, United States Army in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Kuwait during Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm. Whereas Cornelio Robin Hong, MD, in 1991 was assigned flight surgeon of the 169th Aviation headquartered with the Connecticut National Guard while remaining in the U.S. Army Reserve. Whereas Cornelio Robin Hong, MD, is a life member of VFW Post 594, and in 2002-2003 was assigned National Surgeon General for the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Now therefore, I, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom, and Norwich City Council President Pro Tem William Nash, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the City of Norwich, to hereby thank Cornelio Robin Hong, MD, for all his hard work on behalf of the City of Norwich and all veterans, dated this 21st day of May, 2018. Congratulations, sir.
So, first of all, I want to say congratulations to all the honorees tonight, because this is exactly what makes Norwich the best place to live, because we have great people that do great things and are always so committed to helping everybody out. And I just want to thank them for all the work they've done to keep Norwich simply the best place. So this is a General Assembly official citation, Dr. Hong, for you. It was introduced by myself and also Representative Ryan. Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly offers its sincerest congratulations to Dr. Hong, Major, U.S. Army, retired. In recognition of your retirement after 35 years in private medical practice, with 10 of those years in service as a physician for our veterans at the Federal Veterans Affairs Facility in New London, we thank you for your many years of service, compassion, and care to those in need. And I have to tell you that Dr. Hong, whenever he had an opportunity to talk about what was going on with veterans, would remind me that veterans have given their all. And I think that that's something that, as you can tell, there are many veterans here today that are recognizing everything that you did for our veterans. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued success. Given this 21st day of May 2018 at the State Capitol in Hartford, Connecticut, signed by Martin Looney, President of the Senate, Joe Arasimowicz, Speaker of the House, and Denise Merrill, Secretary of the State. And before I hand this to you, I'm going to let Representative Ryan say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Hong. Your service to our community is exemplary, and we really appreciate all you've done to for this nation, for this community, and the kind of service you've even given to my own family. You were my father's doctor, you were my doctor, and you always did a great job. I'm still here. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you all. There are so many people that I would like to thank, but I just can't say their names because there are just so many of you here today. For the last 10 years, I've been working for the VA, and I thought that the only way that I can reach out to a veteran is to do it on a one-on-one situation. The VA is still a huge bureaucracy, but it is trying its very best to serve all veterans. What you hear and read about the VA most likely comes from the newspapers, and they're all negative. But for those who knows, the VA is trying their very best to serve every veteran. And I, for one, refuse to go up the ladder of so-called supervisory or management for the simple reason that the only way I can reach out to the veteran is to be with them on a one-on-one basis. Every veteran has a different issue, and every veteran has a different need. And we really need more today than ever, because we have just so many veterans now that are not getting enough and any speedy care, for the simple reason that there are just so many issues going on. We need your support, and sometimes we also need your appreciation, because every time that we hear something about the VA, it's about something that is negative that is happening. But we are trying our very best. Although I'm retired now from the VA, I still will continue watching the VA deliver its care to all the veterans that are involved, and especially from the New London area. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And I'll take the liberty, I'd like to also acknowledge former Mayor Ben Lathrop, who is here with us this evening. He was my first predecessor, and he came here to partake in these acknowledgments as well. Good to see you, Mayor.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
10.
General.
Okay, noting the clock, it is 10 of 8, and we will go for the 30 minutes as we are required. The first person. Mr. David Burnett. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Oh, okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here this evening to talk about taxes and tax exemption in Norwich. Again, if I didn't say it, my name is David Burnett. I've lived in Norwich and worked in Norwich for 40 years. I am the Executive Director of Reliance Health. Reliance Health being an organization that was founded in 1976 by John Murawski. We have this evening with us, Jane, I'm sorry to do this to you. Would you stand up and take a wave? Jane Murawski. I will talk this evening mostly about Reliance Health, but also a bit about the not-for-profit sector in general. As I said, I've worked in Norwich for 40 years in the not-for-profit sector, and we have never been treated the way we are currently being treated. Reliance Health has 260 employees, over 100 of whom work in downtown. We serve over 1,200 people annually. If we were not here, this community would be a less attractive, less healthy, less appealing place for entrepreneurs and developers. Reliance Health and all the tax-exempt organizations represented here tonight are federally recognized tax-exempt organizations for a reason. We exist to meet the needs of our community, and in so doing, we take the burden of those services off of this community and the city and the taxpayers of this city. We are recognized as not-for-profit companies because there is no for-profit motive in a not-for-profit company. Every dime that we have access to goes to meet our charitable mission. Missions represented here tonight are as varied as uniting our community around the arts, as in the Norwich Arts Center, maintaining lovely green space, as in the Lowthorpe Association, or, I'll be done in a minute, or helping needy folks as we do at Reliance Health. The essence of a not-for-profit organization is this: all our money goes to enriching this community.
Excuse me. 3 minutes. Could you please submit that in writing to us? I'll make sure it's fully distributed to every member.
I think somebody started this before I spoke, but I let people go out. But okay. I might add just one thing.
Excuse me, point of order.
I'm sorry? I might add just one thing. Mr. Mayor, you full know, as a former board member of Reliance Health, formerly Reliance House, you know full well a couple of things. Every dime we get is a resource that we use to help people in this community. And I would add further that there are no large salaries in our company, and I include myself in that. We use our resources very carefully and very reasonably. And we serve this community with every bone in our body and with every dime we can lay our hands on, as do the other not-for-profit companies.
Thank you, sir. Gus Wortham. Is there Gus Wortham here? Gus Wortham, 382 Laurel Hill Avenue. Peter Liebert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking about the tax assessment.
Name and address, please.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Peter Liebert. I live in Preston City. I've lived there for 50 years. I also have been a founding member of the Norwich Arts Council. I've also been a board member for 30 years with the Norwich Arts Council. I'm past president for many years, and I'm current vice president. And I ask your indulgence because I know you have a rule about people from Norwich, so I ask that you let me speak. 31 years ago, a group of dedicated individuals believing in the potential of downtown Norwich met, and shortly after realized that the arts could play a critical role in renewing a city that could and would attract people from the surrounding area to a culturally vibrant destination, at the same time be a catalyst for economic development. From that day, 30 years ago, hundreds of volunteers and thousands of volunteer hours have gone into developing this dream. The Norwich Arts Center proudly owns its building at 60 Broadway. Working with a relatively small space, volunteers spent hundreds of hours rebuilding the downstairs and creating, eventually, 2 galleries. NEC has received generous funding from the City of Norwich during the initial stages of development. This enabled us to hire a full-time director, and with the assistance of Mayor Peter Nystrom, NAC was able to secure a grant in the amount of $280,000 to renovate the theater located on the 3rd floor. The family of Donald Oat generously donated $50,000 to name the theater. Funds have continually been raised by NAC to pay for major structural work, new windows, enhancement of the facade and interior, major roof repairs, a new furnace and air conditioning. To put things into perspective, NAC has made a huge financial contribution to the city in the form of developing the Norwich Arts Center, well over $500,000. This does not include funding received from the city over a period of approximately 8 years. NAC volunteers, approximately 100, are constantly working along with additional support from our 180 members. We have received in the past year over 25 grants and sponsorships, a testimony that the business community also supports what we do. NAC's programs and offerings have been exceptionally varied, ranging from chamber music, theater, jazz, folk, gallery, exhibitions, symposiums, poetry. That couldn't be 3 minutes. I timed this. Community schools, a Robert Rauschenberg exhibit sponsored through the Smithsonian Institute, a month-long program featuring arts of prominent ethnic groups within our community. NAC organized various groups, street festivals, summer concert series, and most significant, First Fridays. As an all-volunteer organization for many years, NAC has been dedicated to the city and people of Norwich. We are believers. As good stewards, NAC has contributed well over $500,000 raised by volunteers and thousands of volunteer hours.
Excuse me.
In the belief that Norwich...
Please submit that in writing, and again, we will distribute it to everyone. But the time you're going over now and the previous speaker is going to be time taken away from others who have
I
signed
understand,
up.
sir. But may I make a statement that something is wrong with your clock? Because when I started my statement, I timed it. It was 3 minutes and 8 seconds. So I'm not sure what's going on here. I have important stuff to say, but I will bow to what you suggest.
I will meet with you at the end of the meeting. Happy to listen to you further myself. I can't speak for the others, but I will do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Daniels.
Phillips, thank you. Good evening. My name's Diane Daniels. My address is 89 Union Street here in Norwich. I'm here today to discuss with you the changes to the nonprofit organization's tax status here within the city. I will tell you one very important story, and then I will yield the rest of my time to make sure that the rest of the concerned citizens who are here to speak as I am speaking will have time to get what they want to say done as well. Nonprofits can have life-saving effects, both in education beyond books, in enhancing the culture of individuals and helping you understand other cultures, and in the enhancement of creativity. Many of you know I've been connected with the Norwich Arts Council, now the Norwich Arts Center, for many years, even serving as president for a short while. That is one of the many nonprofits that makes Norwich what it is, and it made me want to raise my 2 children here. The other aspect of the nonprofits within Norwich are that they literally save lives. UCFS saved my life. I could not get in to see a doctor through my normal health plan area because they just didn't have any appointments available. UCFS got me in quickly. And what determined from the care I got at UCFS, I was diagnosed with stage 1 uterine cancer. Had they not caught it as soon as they did, I might not be standing here in front of you. Nonprofits like UCFS do more to enhance the quality of life for the people they serve and for this city, as do organizations like the Norwich Arts Center. I encourage you to rethink what is happening with property taxes and with the taxation status of nonprofits in this city. Don't tax them out of existence. You'll be taxing away some of the very reasons people come here to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Darrell Wilson.
Good evening, Darrell Wilson, 32nd Street. I'm up here actually for a different reason. One of the things that I talked about on the campaign trail, and as a citizen here in the city of Norwich, is transparency. All of you have received a letter, and it's from a resident who can't make city council meetings. She can't make committee meetings. And her concern was, we're going back to the $800,000 that we spent on Dodd Stadium. And I think it's appropriate that, as a citizen here in the city of Norwich, I bring her concerns to you. It's one of the promises I made her. And in her thing, she talks about, the question is what youth do you refer to? Certainly not the youth that are impoverished in neighborhoods like Greenville, Taffel, Ockham, downtown Norwich. They're less likely to make it to the stadium because of transportation needs. And what are the intended services that the stadium brings to these communities? Wouldn't it be more beneficial if the stadium itself had more for youth to do? But one of the other big things that we talk about is, what is there in Norwich for our youth to do? One of the things that we talk about every single year is the lack of lifeguards, Spalding Pond funding, yet there's nothing as an alternative for them to do if we don't have enough staff for those individuals to swim safely, if we don't have the money to fund the park itself. Why not a splash pad? Why not other tools to make it safe for our youth to have something? As a mom, she works 2 jobs. She takes care of 2 boys and still tries to provide opportunities for them to be involved in things in this city. She's one of the few examples here in the city of Norwich where she struggles to meet the need. She struggles to make her living here in Norwich worthwhile. And I submitted this to all of you because these concerns, she's not the only one. So I ask that you think of inclusion, transparency, when you make decisions. We need to go out and see the people, not always have them come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Granger.
Jennifer Granger, 34 East Town Street, and I'm the proud executive director of the United Community and Family Services. My remarks this evening are intended to give an overview of UCFS and our role in the community of Norwich. UCFS is integral to the history of Norwich and has been a steward of that history since our founding in 1877. While UCFS now operates out of 17 locations covering 900 square miles in eastern Connecticut, we are rooted in our 4 Norwich locations. Our administrative offices in the Samuel Huntington House. That property was gifted to UCFS in the 1950s and at one time housed our dental and pediatric clinics. With the help of the Norwich Historical Society, UCFS recently received grant funds to plan for ongoing upkeep of the property. The Rocknook Building on the Norwich Town Green is home to about 60 staff who provide in-home therapy to children and families in need throughout our community. Those services are supported by grants from the Department of Children and Families. This is fitting for a building that was once an orphanage. Sheltering Arms was built by UCFS in 1927 as a residential care home for the elderly and retains that function to this day. With 30 resident rooms, a dining room, sun porches, crafts room, and a garden, Sheltering Arms is truly a home away from home for those men and women who live there. Finally, the Edward and Mary Lord Family Health Center is located at 47 Town Street. Through the generosity of the Lord Foundation and in combination with state bond funds, UCFS renovated the plaza in 2014. Regardless of their ability to pay, people can receive medical services, dentistry and dental hygiene, and behavioral health from therapists and psychiatrists specializing in trauma, gambling addiction, substance use disorder, and autism spectrum disorder. The community room is always available to any member of the community needing a space to host events, and approximately 150 people work at that center. Our mission is basically unchanged for 141 years, and we continue to evolve as the community need grows. UCFS has a significant impact on the community of Norwich, employing 400 people, 62 of whom live in Norwich. In addition to improving the health and well-being of our customers, we infuse $44 million into the community every year through direct and indirect purchasing. We're honored to be a part of the fabric of Norwich and invite members of the council to tour our Norwich facilities and witness UCFS firsthand. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire Silver.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak. My name is Claire Silva. I'm the Executive Director of Bethsaida Community. Our main office is at 120 Cliff Street. We are renting the St. Joseph Convent building, where we have our main office, and we house homeless women upstairs. For 30 years, Bethsaida has provided outreach, housing, and support services to homeless and at-risk women. Majority of the women come from Norwich. They come to us with no job, very poor, limited working skills if they have any prior work experience, limited education, and a ton of other obstacles in front of them. In 2016 and 2017, our tiny agency housed 96 women. Almost 60% of them were homeless due to addiction. 85% of the women we serve do not return to homelessness. What makes Bethsaida different is we really focus on recovery. We believe if a woman came to us because she has addiction issues, we're going to do everything we can to help her gain the skills so she doesn't rely on addiction, on using substances, and we help her get a job and keep a job. I'm sure you're aware, from 2012 to 2017, Norwich lost 124 lives with the opioid epidemic. 28 of those were women. Bethsaida is an agency that actively is combating those statistics. We turn homeless women into employed, tax-paying citizens, and we need your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Ted Phillips.
Good evening. My name is Theodore Phillips. I'm an attorney in Norwich with offices at 12 K Street. I represent, tonight I'm in my capacity as an attorney. I represent Lothrop Meadows Association, Reliance Health, Inc., and its real estate holding company, Chelsea Reliance Realty, and United Community and Family Services. You've heard a little bit about the intrinsic value that my clients and other fine nonprofits bring to this community. They address quality of life issues. From those who enjoy the arts to those who struggle to meet their health care needs, these nonprofits step up to the plate and provide the service. Now, I'm a Norwich resident as well. I've only lived somewhere else when I was in college and law school. I grew up here, I went to school here, I work here, I live here, I raised my family here. I recognize, as I'm sure you all do, this is not a wealthy community in terms of finances. But we are wealthy in terms of character and charity. I recognize that finances for municipalities are tight. The pressure at this time when sources of federal and state funding are also under pressure. But there are appropriate and inappropriate ways to deal with these pressures. Whether deliberate or not, this year there's been an assault on one aspect of our community's fine character, and that is against our nonprofit charity sector. There's a form you may or may not be aware of called a quadrennial report that has to be filed with the assessor every 4 years. Includes a whole bunch of information, a copy of their nonprofit determination from the IRS and their tax returns. Without notice that there was any expectation of more information than the past, or that there would be stricter scrutiny so that the nonprofits would know to provide additional information, applications were denied. They were the same organizations, the same missions, the same business models that were granted in 2013, and they were denied this year. Norwich deviated from how other towns' assessors handled the application process and from prior process here. I realize I'm running out of time, so let me just tell you that there is a solution. It's found in the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 1281B. 1281B allows that a town can establish by ordinance an effective date for exemption of property acquired by certain institutions used for scientific, education, literary, historical, charitable, or open space preservation purposes. And you can provide for reimbursement of taxes wrongfully paid. Now, the statute is most frequently used and was originally written with acquisition between the quadrennial reports in mind. But I've used it in other communities without litigation, and I've actually used it in Norwich years ago with litigation as a way to solve what is an unfair situation. It's a way for you to preserve the character of this fine town, and I respectfully request that you be bold, be just, intervene before the damage is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Johnson.
Hi, Greg Johnson, 16 Elm Ave in Norwich. I have connections with many of the nonprofit groups in the area, but I'm speaking today not as a representative of a specific group, but as a 25-year resident and taxpayer in Norwich. I am very disappointed and discouraged by the recent actions of the city in regards to taxes on nonprofits. I understand that with the escalation in the mill rate, there's a desire to increase the grand list. However, I argue that going after the nonprofits in Norwich to increase this is both short-sighted and counterproductive. These nonprofit organizations provide many valuable services and improve the quality of life for Norwich residents. Every dollar that these nonprofits has to give to the city in taxes is a dollar taken away from services for the Norwich residents. This is bad for Norwich. Every dollar that these nonprofits has to pay a lawyer to defend against these efforts is a dollar taken away from services for Norwich residents. This is bad for Norwich. If these nonprofits were to close up shop, the city would have to greatly increase the budget to make up for the gaps in the services. This is bad for Norwich. Instead of putting burdens on these organizations, the council and the city manager should be supporting and partnering with these groups that are trying to make Norwich a better place to live and to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Beryl Fishbone.
Beryl Fishbone, 19 Bliss Place. I'm not going to talk about the taxes in specific. What I am going to do is ask that while you're considering how to do the budget, I'd like to ask you to begin thinking forward. I don't want to hear any more about 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago. I want to hear what is going to happen from this time forward and how we can provide services in this city, whether they are through profit or not-for-profit, so that our people can have the quality of life that they have been enjoying and that they deserve, and that our children, our future, and the people that will be paying my retirement will be making. We have to stop looking backwards. We need to look forward to find out where it is that we're going, how we're going to approach it, how we're going to make it better, and most importantly, how we are going to achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Kobolas.
Good evening, Brian Kobelar, 16 Hobart Avenue. I think the arts and the nonprofits have spoken as well as I can about their situation, so I'll leave that one alone for the moment. A few things, though. Several weeks ago, I brought up issue that pertained to the budget And going back a couple of years, I pointed out that an extra $500,000 magically moved from the NPU contribution away from the CCD to the general fund. During the last public hearing, there was one individual that got up here and complained that they thought it was totally unfair, threatened all of you with voting and kicking you out of office if you didn't end up moving the entire fund over. They certainly do not want this to be one city. They want it to remain divided. They want it to remain two cities. They want to persevere with bringing hatred among the elected representatives and the public they serve. That's not right. If you do this instead of on emotion or threats to your offices, I would recommend that you do a data set. Look at the number of ratepayers there are in the CCD versus the TCD. How many meters? How does NPU get their money? Would it surprise you that over 50% of 3 of the 4 quadrants, the 4 pillars of the services that NPU provides, over 50% in 3 of those 4 are the CCD ratepayers? So if you want to make it fair, which is what you were elected to do, then you need to end up doing that number based upon the contributions that come into the city from that voting group, not on threats. That's below you. It's below all of us. And I certainly hope to see that change. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, something that has been brought up in meetings prior to the election, during the debates, and also after you came into office. The thing of bringing in resolutions that nobody sees, that are not posted in the hallway, introduces those into the agenda without the opportunity for the public to know what's within it and vote on that, deprives the public of the one thing called transparency that so many people talk about. Wish I had more time. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes the list of those who signed up. We have 1 minute left. Anyone not spoken who would like to? Mr. Bowie.
Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt Avenue, and I'll make it short. You folks have heard me talk about taxes before, and you saw the number of veterans that were back in here this evening. I want them to be able to live in the city of Norwich. I don't want them to have to move someplace else. They put their lives on hold for many years just because they were in the military. So let's keep them coming back. You're catching a lot of flack, and I appreciate it. I want to thank you, really, for doing this kind of work. It's not the kind of thing I want to do or you want to do for that matter. You're not going to make anybody happy at the end of the day. I know. I've been saying the same thing now for 50 years, as I told you before. But thanks again. Do your best, and that's all you can do. We aren't a rich city. Never have been. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes citizen comment. I declare it closed.
Public hearing, number 1. An ordinance amending section 7-131.2, 7-131.3, and 7-131.4, small c, of Article 6 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the size, use, and replenishment of the general fund unrestricted fund balance.
I declare this hearing open, and anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance, please come to the microphone. Anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance? None? Anyone like to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Yes, Mr. Crowder.
Good evening, David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street.
delete Section 7-131.3, permitted use. When Ned Lamont was on WTIC this past Friday, his position on the radio was that Connecticut had no growth for more than 20 years, and population was leaving. This is like moving chairs on the Titanic. You've been kicking the can down the road for years. You're looking for extra dollars under every tree branch in the city. It's time to face reality. Take that section out of permitted uses. We don't need any more robbery from one hand to the other, robbing Peter to pay Paul. That money was the taxpayers. If the Democrats overtaxed us to put in the rainy day fund, it really belongs back in the taxpayers' hand with a tax cut. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition to the ordinance? Anyone else like to speak in opposition to the ordinance? Third, anyone else like to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Seeing no one else, I declare the hearing closed. Thank you.
An ordinance amending Section 7-132.2, 7-131.3, and 7-131.4, small c, of Article 6 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the size, use, and replenishment of the general fund unrestricted fund balance.
I entertain a motion to bring the issue before us for discussion purposes, please. And waive the full reading of the text as well. Thank you. Alderwoman Stacey Gould, is there a second? Pro Tem Nash, is there discussion or questions? Yes, Alderman Browning.
I have a question, which is we have what looks like a original ordinance, and then we have something which the rules were suspended to add on what looks like an amendment.
That's a separate, totally separate ordinance, not part of this.
Not part of this?
No.
So, different section of the code?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there further questions? Yes, Alderwoman Filbert.
Can you tell me the mechanism in Section 7-131.3 where it says the unfunded balance may be used in the place of normal operating revenues in the annual budget process? Who will have that authority to make that decision?
Would be the council.
Okay.
During
thank you.
budget deliberations.
All right. I just wanted public clarification on that. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Yes,
I just have a
President Pro Tem.
question of our comptroller, if you allow me.
Please.
Good evening.
Hi, Josh. I had a quick question on the going from 12 to 10. What does that do with our bond rating?
So there's the potential that, in our meetings with the bond rating agencies, we said that this is the plan and this is our policy. So if we back off the policy, there's, the potential that they could say, you're not sticking to the original plan, and they could downgrade our ratings. But, currently the city doesn't have a lot of authorized and unissued debt that we'll be issuing in the next few years. We've got the recently authorized public safety equipment bond and some road bonds, but we shouldn't be issuing several millions of dollars of bonds in any given year in the next few years.
So just to make sure everyone understands, this doesn't affect the bonds we have in place right now. If our bond rating was to drop, we won't be increased on ones we've already passed.
Right. That won't increase our interest costs on existing bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome. Is there further questions? Yes, Alderman Burnham.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
How much is in the balance right now?
Well, you kind of got to look at this as, in one fiscal year at a time. So with the information that we have right now, I'm projecting that the fund balance will be somewhere around 11% at the end of this fiscal year. It could be a little bit better than that, it could be a little worse. It's kind of dependent on how revenues come in the last month or so of the year, and over any overages and expenditures from departments.
Thank you. 11% of what?
Of the general fund operating budget.
2017, 2018 general fund operating
Correct.
budget. Okay, because in our budget document through 2017, fiscal year ending June 30th, we have $17,681,000.
Yes. Yes.
So is it more or less than that?
It's going to be less than that.
How much less?
It could be over $3 million less than that.
How come? I'm just trying to understand.
So there was, we lost some money during the year from, at the time the 2017-18 budget was adopted, we didn't know exactly what the state of Connecticut was going to give us. They adopted a budget, and then a couple weeks later, it was cut further through some midterm budget cuts. And then there were fairly heavy snow plowing season, which wasn't as significant impact. The schools have some additional costs, especially for special education that they're dealing with. So all in all, it could reduce our unrestricted fund balance down to about the 11% level for this fiscal year.
Okay.
Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
So Josh, you just mentioned the school budget's budget shortfall. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about somewhere between 1.5 and $2 million. Is that the part of this $3 million less
Right,
that you're talking about?
Yeah,
so that money has already been allocated to the school board. That's
No, it hasn't been. It's just, when I'm looking at projection for how we're going to end up this year, I got to take that into account.
Okay, so you're forecasting that minus that money, that the unrestricted fund balance would be at that.
Correct.
About $14 million.
Yeah.
Right. And just one further question. Alderman Nash asked about our bond, not so much capacity, but how it would affect our bond rating and the interest rates that we would pay. Agreed?
Yes.
So I heard what you said, but I'm looking even a little bit further down the road when we may very well have a $125 million school project in front of us. How will that be impacted if we were down to, let's say, 10% instead of being at 12?
So I guess the one way to gauge it is that I asked our financial advisors for a history of the spread between single A rated and double A rated bonds since 1998. And the average spread is 36 basis points. So when we talk about bond yields, 1% is 100 basis points, so 0.36%. So if you take a $5 million 20-year bond, the difference between what you would pay on that bond for a single A rated bond and a double A rated bond is about $189,000 in interest during the course of the life of that bond. So a $10 million bond, it would be $378,000.
Over 20 years?
Correct.
And is it a very real possibility that decrease in bond rating would happen from double A to single A?
It's certainly a possibility.
But there's other factors that weigh on that.
Right, yeah. They look at economic development, other financial management policies. They'll look at growth in the grand list, other debts like the funding ratio for pension and other post-employment benefits, workers' comp balances, and health insurance fund if you're self-insured like the city of Norwich is.
So among all those things, how heavily, or how much weight does this issue carry? So, you know, you just named half a dozen things. Is this does this have the most gravity? Is it on par with the other factors? Does it weigh twice as much as the other factors?
It's about on par with the other factors.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, is there further questions? I don't see it. I'm just going to give you the reasons why I thought we might need to have this flexibility, and that is, in order for us to close the books on the current year, thank you, Josh, in order to pay the shortfall on the city side, and we're facing a short side on the Board of Education side as well. If we fulfill that need, we'll be in violation of the current ordinance right now, because we can't go below 12%. And that's one of the main reasons why I took a look at this and asked that it be drafted for us to discuss this. We are required to close the books in a balanced manner for the current fiscal year. In order to do that, we'll have to violate the ordinance that we're discussing right now without this change. And I don't want anyone here not knowing that before that happens, which will be June 4th. I want everyone to be well informed of the issues we're facing here. The state did what they did. They pulled the rug out from this municipality and many others, and this is the result. We have an ordinance that says 12 to 17. I personally felt that was too large to begin with. This money belongs to the taxpayers. It absolutely does. It's their money. But in order to balance this current budget, not even look at next year's spending plan, we have to violate our own ordinance to do it without this change. I didn't want any of you put in that position. At least we can have the discussion tonight and make a decision on how we proceed forward. Is there further discussion? Questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Alderwoman Philbrook,
Yes.
Alderman Browning,
Yes.
Alderman DeLucia,
Yes.
Alderwoman Burnham,
Yes.
Alderwoman Gold,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Nash,
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes.
That's 7-0.
The vote is 7-0. Passes.
Petition and communication number 1, letter of resignation from Jane A. O'Friel from the Board of Directors, Uncas Health District.
Motion to accept, please. Woman Stacy Gould. Second, please. President Pro Tem Nash. The discussion. Seeing none, with our sincere thanks for her service on this board. All those in favor? Unanimous.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the City Manager's report for May 21st, 2018. I attended 2 meetings for the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments and the SEAT monthly meeting. The CSCOG meeting on May 7th agenda included discussion of the taxation of nonprofits, of which I was a participant. The meeting on May 16th included guest speaker, State Comptroller Kevin Lembo. I attended the Public Safety meeting and Parking Commission meetings, and I attended part of the first tour of the Norwich Public Schools that was initiated by the School Facilities Committee. I also had my monthly updates meeting with Bob Mills of NCDC. The annual docent reception was held on May 8th. Alderman Nash and DeLucia were in attendance, along with former Alderman Tucker Brannock. My assistant, Jackie Barbarossa, arranged for the Norwich Technical High School students to provide refreshments for the occasion. Thank you to the docents for volunteering, and my compliments to the culinary arts students that prepared the great tasting food. The fire chiefs and I met on May 8th, and another meeting is scheduled for May 24th. The CCM Board of Directors meeting was held on May 15th in Wallingford. I attended the East Great Plains Fire Department's 75th anniversary banquet at the U.S. Coast Guard facility with the mayor, several council members, and all the fire chiefs. And finally, City Hall glowed with orange lights on the evening of May 19th and displayed the Connecticut Sun's flag across the front steps in support of Operation Orange. Our participation was in support of the Mohegan Sun basketball team's home opener on Sunday, May 20th. My office received an email today from Bill Tavares, Director of Communication and Broadcasting, thanking us and the 16 downtown businesses and organizations that participated. Also thanks to John Johnson and his staff that set up the orange lights and flags. I invite you to view the City Hall photos that my assistant took and posted on the city's Facebook page. Finally, I have attached the Treasurer's report for the quarter ending March 31st, 2018. That completes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Before I ask if there's comment, I'd like to note at the dinner Saturday evening, it was noted that collectively the 5 volunteer fire departments have provided over 500 years cumulatively of volunteer firefighting service to this city, and that is a remarkable benchmark. Yannick being the longest with 171 years of continued service, Tafel 101, Ockham in East Great Plains 75 years, and Laurel Hill, I believe, is approaching their 60th as well. So we've been well served by all of those volunteers for very many years. Are there questions of the city manager? Seeing none, thank you, John.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
I have a sign-up sheet for a citizen comment on resolutions. First person is Lillian Pereira. Is she here? Not here, okay. Rodney Bowie.
Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. As chairman of the rehab committee, I would look forward to having one more person on the committee. At this time, I would like to put out a request that you folks beat the woods for more people to be on this committee or more committees on this in this city. In this particular committee, there's a chance for some young person to learn lead abatement and asbestos abatement and to become certified to actually work in the business. We do hold classes at one time or other for contractors, and there is no reason why a member of this committee cannot be involved in those classes. I myself am qualified in both lead and asbestosis. And I would really, really like to see an effort put out to have someone else come on it. I've been on the committee for more years than I care to. Having said that, it's rewarding. We do handle about $1.5 million a year into this community, and it's like having a major corporation paying taxes into this community. The employment that we do with contractors and stuff, alleviating those problems in city housing is quite large. So thank you anyways.
Thank you, sir. Ted Phillips.
Thank you. Good evening again. For the record, my name is Theodore Phillips. I'm an attorney in Norwich with offices at 12 K Street. And tonight I'm speaking to resolution number 4 with regard to an agreement between the City of Norwich and the Chelsea Gardens Foundation, Incorporated. I would just urge you all to vote in favor of this ordinance, which allows a clean termination of the agreement between the City of Norwich and the Chelsea Gardens Foundation. As you are all aware, the nonprofit, which has been manned over 20 years plus by volunteers who have given of their time and money in order to try to move this project forward. And all studies were paid along the way, including but not limited to environmental and archaeological digs. Master plan was developed. Partner relationships were initiated. The financial component of this project included funds from foundations, bonding, both state and federal, and private donations and joint ventures sort of hit a brick wall after the litigation that the foundation did win. The finances are such that we can't move forward, and rather than holding on to the lease, which would be our right to do, it would make the most sense to terminate the lease at this time and turn the property, plus all of the plans and studies and permits and approvals, back to the city. So that's what resolution number 4 will accomplish, and I thank you for your anticipated favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Beryl Fishbone?
Beryl Fishbone, 19 Bliss Place. I'm speaking now on behalf of the Mohegan Park Advisory Committee, and that will be on resolution number 4. We thank Chelsea Gardens for relinquishing the land back to the city and hopefully back to Mohegan Park. We regret very much the cleared property, and we thank the mayor and Mr. Browning for the trees that they will be donating so that that land can return back to what it was. It'll only take 100 or so years. We have plenty of time. We regret very much that those piles of wood chips, we can't move them. It would do environmental damage, far more than we thought. So they are going to remain as a reminder, a very serious reminder of how much our future depends on our forests, on our trees, and our land. 100 years ago, this city, residents, and the council looked forward, and they said, you know, having some land around is going to be a good thing. It'll come in handy, and it certainly has. And we need to be reminded once again. Again, on behalf of the advisory board, we thank Chelsea Gardens. We wish them well. And if you have any money left over, we'll be glad to accept it. Because we're short about $85,000, about $85,000.
There is no excess funds. In fact, the directors donated money to be in a position to offer the property back to the city.
Well, it was worth a shot. Can't blame me for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the resolutions before the council who did not get a chance to sign up? Anyone else like to speak in the citizen comment? Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Seeing no one else, I declare it closed, and thank you all.
Number 1, relative to an amendment of the 2018-2019 budget for adjustments to revenues.
Motion, please, to bring it forward. President Pro Tem Nash, second by Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Thank you. Number 2, relative to an appointment as a regular member of the Rehabilitation Review Committee.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Filbert, second Alderman DeLucia. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, for the public's knowledge, the person being appointed as a regular member is former Alderman Tucker Braddock. All those in favor? Unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
Number 3, relative to the conveyance of land to the city in conjunction with a subdivision of 66 Lucas Park Road.
Motion to bring it forward, please. President Pro Tem Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Burnham. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderman Browning.
I would, just for the public's knowledge, I'd be curious to know why we are accepting this particular property and its removal from the tax rolls. What is the benefit to the city?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you down here.
Okay, we're accepting land from a landowner. It's leaving the tax rolls. Perhaps we can explain to the voters of the city the interest in the city in accepting this land.
This was directed by the Commission on the City Plan when it studied the subdivision plan. The property's on a curve on Lucas Park Road.
Could you speak
And
into the mic?
The excess is going to, or the land that's being taken is available for widening the road if it's necessary. So it's what, 2,500 square feet, give or take? It's in the resolution.
And it's not a usable building lot?
Pardon?
It's not a usable building lot.
Well, it could be if it wasn't given to the city, but it's on the road side of where the property lines will be. So in order to have land available to widen the road if it proves necessary, this land is given to the city as part of the subdivision approval.
Okay.
Is there further question? All those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0.
Number 4, relative to enter into a mutual release and lease termination agreement with Norwich Landlord and Chelsea Gardens Foundation, Inc. as tenant.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderman Stacey Gould, is there a second? Alderman Nash. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Filbert.
I'm happy to see this. Personally, I feel that this is long overdue. When I first moved to Norwich, one of the first things that I saw were the plans for Chelsea Botanical Gardens, and I thought, wow, this is a big project. And then the years passed and nothing happened, and then some more years passed and nothing happened, and then some more years passed and nothing happened, with the exception of considerable financing through the Sachem Fund, the Mohegan Park. And I think going forward, I would like to see the city really take a hard look at leases and agreements that we enter into. A lot can happen in 75 years. A lot of good things can happen, and a lot of not so good things happen. As Attorney Phillips indicated, there is no money left. So that all that money that was allocated to Chelsea Botanical Gardens is now gone. So as I said, I am happy that they are willing and have negotiated a termination of the lease, but as I said, I really hope that going forward that the city takes a much harder look at leases that we enter into regardless of what they're for. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Browning.
I should just inform the public, and I'm going to be voting for this resolution because I want this lease over with. And I'm not going to try to do a renegotiation or try to get my peers to agree to that. But if someone was to sue the city to attempt to get them to enforce some sort of action against Chelsea Garden, we are on the hook for indemnifying the Chelsea Garden, even though their corporation will not exist. That's in paragraph 4. I'm going to grit my teeth and run that risk. You see this in some environmental actions where some nonprofit will sue the EPA to try to get them to do their job and their enforcement. But there is that issue in the lease, and I wanted to mention it publicly. I could say many things. I just want to raise 2 points. Number one, the narrative that has been spread is that Chelsea Gardens was moving along before the campaign that was brought against it. If you look at the tax records from 2014, 2013, the foundation was raising approximately $20,000 a year and had costs of at least $10,000 a year to run. So even before the great fight that occurred over the fact that the land was clear-cut, this was not necessarily in the cards. There was no way you were going to put together even a $20 million project with that scope of fundraising. The second thing, too, is, and I will try not to be offensive, but I'm looking at a bulletin article written by John Berry, and it discussed the idea that maybe you know, if we leave the plan, someone else will come by and be interested in do this. This is a classic what's called sunk cost fallacy, which is we've already spent a lot of money, so we don't want to admit that we can't do anything with it. So maybe the next group of volunteers will try to direct to doing this. And I say, okay, if anyone comes into the city with major money, let's go do an economic development project that will pay taxes and that will not attempt to develop our park. I would, if the other members of the council listen to me saying one thing this 2 years, if someone else wants to work with Chelsea Gardens, please have them work with the Mohegan Park Advisory Committee, or I'll steer them to a project downtown where we can use the capital. We shouldn't try to resurrect this, and that's my opinion.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman Gould.
To Mr. Reed and the rest of the members of the Chelsea Gardens Foundation, I'm really sorry that this project couldn't be brought to fruition. You spent a lot of time and effort into trying to bring this to Mohegan Park. Unfortunately, for lots of reasons, it will not come to fruition. And I feel badly about that because I think this would have been a lovely addition to the park and would have been a great economic driver for the city. I thank you for your efforts. I know that there's been a lot of criticism. I think that was in poor taste. You only did this for the betterment of the citizens and the city of Norwich. I'm sorry you had to give this up and turn the lease back. I will be voting in favor of the resolution, but I just want you to know there is one person out there that appreciates the hard work and will say so publicly. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Pro Tem Nash.
I would like to echo Alderwoman Gould's sentiments. I, too, am disappointed that these couldn't come forward. I did sit on the Sachem Fund when some of the funding was unanimously released to the Chelsea Garden project, and it did have grandiose plans, and I went and visited a couple of botanical gardens to see to get an idea what you guys were planning. And though I thought it was small compared to the ones I went to, and especially the one in Norfolk, which has gondola rides and trains and all kinds of amazing things, and I too had hoped that it would happen. I did take criticism over the years from individuals because of the fact that I voted in favor of the funding. Again, I just want you to understand, I appreciate all the time and effort you put in. It was a great idea. I don't know what happened, whether it was the economy or bad press or just bad luck. But thank you for your time and effort. And on behalf of the City Council, myself, I will say thank you. And to the advisory, the Mohegan Park Advisory, don't worry, it'll recover. Everything will be fine eventually. And I don't know how much, I looked at the studies the guys showed, and it didn't look like it was, it looked like it's already recovering according to the studies. So, it is a sore eye right now, but I'm sure nature will take its course. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
Not to belabor the point, Mr. Reed, you and I had a conversation. I was going to say private. I don't know how private the line and Stop and Shop is, but I said to you then that I know that you and your organization are mourning the for lack of a better word, the unraveling of this project. But again, another voice saying thank you for the effort that you all put in, and I hope that this doesn't dissuade you from taking on projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I will add my 2 cents. I was supportive of this project from day one. If it was possible, I'd still be here supporting it because I believed in it, and I believe in the people that brought this and this opportunity to the city. People like Ed Regetz, who's passed on. People whose only purpose was to help benefit this community. Botanical gardens are not easy. They take, on average, 25 to 30 years to even open their doors for the first ticket sale. We didn't reach that goal, and that's a shame. But all of the investment right up until 2015 is owned by the city of Norwich after this is voted on. And I think it's got a value of about $250,000 in engineering, architectural, and everything else. So it's not a complete loss. But the dream We are losing that, and that's a shame, because I said it before. Anyone who says Mohegan Park can't host another garden, I don't know where they're coming from anymore. The Rose Garden's been there for years, and everyone was very glad to see that. This was a garden, folks. High-end, maybe, but that's what it was, and an educational opportunity. All those in favor of the resolution? It's unanimous. The vote is 7-0.
Thank you. New business ordinance number 1. An ordinance amending section 7-132.4 of Article 6 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the funding requirements for the other post-employment benefit funds.
I would entertain a motion to raise this for first read, to waive the full text and reading of the ordinance and schedule it for public hearing. Second reading as well. Yeah. Pro Tem Nash, second Alderwoman Gould. June 4th. Is that agreeable to everyone? June 4th it is. All those in favor? Unanimous.
No,
wait a minute.
I'm not
Sorry?
voting for it.
Your hands? I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm not voting.
Did you want to speak?
No, he's
Yeah,
not voting
yes.
for it.
I'll briefly explain. I think
Don't
that,
usually do that.
This ordinance is introduced tonight for its first
It's a
reading.
procedural.
This
It's
is taking
not,
place.
it's really not in front of us.
So,
okay, then
We're
I will just
scheduling
vote
a
again.
public
I will
hearing.
not vote
Yes.
for it.
Understood. I'm sorry. Yeah. Again, all those in favor for public hearing? Opposed? Thank you. Vote is 6-1.
Thank you.
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the acquisition or disposition of real estate or interest in real estate when publicly regarding the proposed acquisition or disposition would cause a likelihood of an increased price to acquire or a diminished price to dispose of the property, and to review information given the city in confidence, not required to be disclosed by law. City Manager John Salamone, Comptroller Josh Pathier, Corporate Counsel Michael E. Driscoll shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council.
Is there a second? Pro Tem Nash. All those in favor? Let's go, please. Thank you.